Abba Dabby Dude! Hi there, this is Abba Dabby Dude. Welcome back. And today I'm coming to you from a very different place. Today I am in, can you guess? A Jaguar I-Pace. But not my Jaguar I-Pace. Mine's gone in for the H228 update. So they've given me a Jaguar I-Pace S. Well, they do the update. They said they need it for a couple of days, which I was surprised by, but that's what they reckon. So it's gone in for that update for a couple of days. So I thought it'd be kind of cool to do a little video just highlighting the differences between the two that I've managed to find by going over the car since I got it. And there's quite a few differences, so I've done a little list and I'll just rattle through the list with you, and each item I'll point out whether I think it's a big deal or not. So the first item on the list is obviously externally. Not much to tell between the different versions of the car. Before I go on to that, the drivetrain and the battery pack are the same, so you get the same performance right across the range. The whole acceleration, 0 to 60 acceleration, same amount of torque, same size of battery, same range per charge. So there's no difference in that front at all. It's exactly the same for all variants of the car. So that's the same. Externally, not much to see to highlight the difference. This one's got different wheels. It's got the 20-inch wheels compared to my 22s, so it should get better range. But that's just down to the wheels, not the car. And to be honest, not a big deal because they can be spec'd. You know, whatever spec you pick, you can choose your own wheels, so that's not such a big deal. But I think the wheels that are on mine were only available as an option on the first edition, so I don't think they're available to buy for any car other than the first edition. I might be wrong on that though. But yeah, again, not a big deal because you can spec whatever wheels you want from quite a big range. You know, they've got a fair selection, to be honest. And the only other difference that you'll spot really is the little S badge at the front, between the front doors and the wheel arch, where mine's got HSE, this one's just got the S. And apart from that, the only other thing you'll see, which is one of my first differences, is in the front lights. There's no matrix headlamps and no animated indicator lights either. So you can see the matrix headlamps are just replaced with ordinary bulbs, or not ordinary bulbs, but ordinary headlamps. And instead of a strip of indicator lights running around the edge of the light frame, there's just an orange indicator light as on any car. And you lose the daytime running lights as well, so those double J blade elements there that you can see between or running around the edges of the headlamps, on my car they are daytime running lights. On this car they're just a bit of chrome trim, so you get no DRLs on this. So putting all of that together, is that a big deal? Indicators and running lights, they're cool and I like them and I love how it makes the car look for other people, but there's no impact on driver pleasure, or you know, it has no effect on me as the driver at all. It's only what other people see. They're kind of cool, they're kind of nice, but you know, not a huge loss. I'd rather have them than not have them, but you'd probably say that about most of the things on this list. But yeah, I could live without those comfortably. However, the matrix headlamps I find really good. You know, it's almost like driving with your full beam on all the time, because it shapes the full beam around other cars on the road, so you're effectively getting to use the full beam the whole time without blinding anybody. And it does make a noticeable difference when you're driving the car around. You really do feel it. So they're a nice thing to have. They're quite high up on my list. Certainly can live without them, but there is something nice about never having to dip your headlamps again. You get the auto headlamps, but just nothing else. So the headlights will come on automatically in the dark, but but that's it. So yeah, would miss that definitely. No powered tailgate, so that I would miss. Again, I could live without it, but I would miss it. It is nice being able to press the button and get the boot to actually physically open. But also, what you don't get because of that is you also don't get the the gesture tailgate. So the thing where you just have to walk up to the car with your key in your pocket. If you're carrying shopping bags or boxes or whatever, you can just flick your foot around underneath the rear bumper and the tailgate opens. It's brilliant. It is really good. It's one of those things that sounds really gimmicky until you get used to it, and then it's like, wow, this is brilliant. So again, I would really miss that. Could live without it. I've never had that in a car before, and I've never thought, oh no, I've got to open the boot. But I would miss it definitely. Now this one is this one really surprised me on a 60 grand car, but there's no power folding door mirrors. So the door mirrors don't fold in electrically at all. For me, that's a deal breaker, because in order to get this car into my garage, I have to fold the mirrors in. And even with them folded in, there's only about 2 centimetres clearance on either side of the car. It's really tight. So if the mirrors didn't fold, I wouldn't be able to get in my garage. So that is a big deal for me, and that's something I just couldn't be without, to be honest. And I'm kind of surprised that isn't something that I would deem a luxury item in this day and age. So I'm kind of surprised it doesn't have them. It's also on spring suspension, just ordinary suspension, where mine's got the air suspension. So you can't raise or lower it for off-roading, and obviously you don't get the adaptive, the sort of silky smooth air suspension ride. Now, bearing in mind I've got the 22-inch wheels with ultra low profile tyres, my car should be significantly worse over the bumps than this one, and it's not. This one, it's a great ride, don't get me wrong, ride quality is still really good, but I feel the bumps more than I do in my own car. It does make a surprising difference, and when you consider mine's got those big wheels with low profile tyres that this one doesn't have, it just shows you how much difference that adaptive air suspension is making. You also don't get the dynamics pack, the adaptive dynamics pack, so you can't adjust the suspension either. Like, for example, when I put my car in dynamic mode, I can decide, do I want the acceleration to be dynamic or comfort, or what? Do I want the suspension to be dynamic or comfort? So you can tweak it a little bit and get a more custom ride in dynamic mode than you can with this car. You also don't get the G-force meter and the lap timer screen on this car, because they come with the adaptive dynamics pack. So what? Honestly, all of that I could comfortably live without. Comfortably. I use the G-force meter occasionally just for my own amusement, and that's about it. I could easily live without that. So I wouldn't bother with that. No loss. Again, I'm glad I've got it, but I wouldn't expect it if it didn't come as standard, I don't think. What else doesn't it have? It doesn't have powered seats, which is a surprise. The only power function on the seats in this car is in the reclining ability. So the angle of the seat back is electrically adjustable. There is a little switch on the side of the seat that makes the seat go back and forwards. Just the back, the angle. Everything else is manual. So it seems kind of strange almost to me to bother with the electrical recliner. But, you know, it's the old-fashioned grab handle at the front of the seat and then dig your heels in and pull the seat forward, and a little handle at the side that you pump up and down frantically to get the seat to go up and down. And obviously because of that you get no memory functions either, so if you take it in for a service and they change your seat position, you're going to have to try and get it back to how you want it. You know, it's not going to automatically go back there. So you miss that. That's a fairly big deal to me, and I would genuinely miss it, because it's not only the power functions, but you lose a big number of adjustments. Like mine's got 18 adjustments in it, which allows you to get the seat exactly how you want it, and this just hasn't got that. So yeah, I would be specking powered seats, I think. And that comes on to my next point of the other thing that I would not want to be without is, of course, it doesn't have heated or cooled seats. The heated seats I use all the time in winter. I lived in the Middle East for 10 years and I got used to high temperatures, so I feel the cold now having come back to Scotland. So in the winter I have the heated seats on a lot, and I would not want to be without them, in all honesty. Cooled seats, depends on where you live. In Scotland, not such a big deal, but if I was still in the Middle East, it would be a big deal. Having said that, even though it doesn't get that hot that often in Scotland, you know, we've had a few hot days already this year, and on those days the seats obviously do get warm, so it is nice. You know, the cooling function is nice to have, but certainly the heated function is something I wouldn't want to be without. Also doesn't have the heated steering wheel, which is another thing I wouldn't want to be without. Again, total luxury item, total first world problem, but I love, you know, if you've been out in the cold, walking around the shops for an hour or two, you come back and your hands are freezing, you get in the car, that heated steering wheel, oh yes, it's brilliant. I love that, and I wouldn't want to give that up now. Again, that's probably personal to me now that I've become so soft with my time living abroad, but I wouldn't want to be without that. Next on the list, it doesn't have the heated front windscreen. I don't think that's a big deal, in all honesty. Some people don't like the appearance of the heated front windscreen because you can't just make out the elements through the window if you look carefully. So for some people that's quite a big deal. For me, I don't even notice it, in all honesty. It's fine. However, you don't really need it. The I-Pace windscreen does not fog up particularly. So yeah, it's a bit unnecessary. I don't, you know, the times that it's useful really is in winter. If you parked it outside and it's been snowing or it's icy, you know, it just helps to clear the windscreen a lot quicker. But when you're driving around, I don't find that the windscreen fogs up, to be honest. And there is a function on the climate control to blow maximum air onto the windscreen, so that can clear it very, very quickly. So probably not a necessary item in the I-Pace, to be honest, but you may have a different opinion on that. But yeah, now I've had the car for 6 months, I don't really feel it needs the heated windscreen. But it's useful on those rare occasions where you do need it. It is useful, and maybe in certain climates it would be more useful. I don't know. I can only speak from my experience in Scotland, but I haven't found it misting up at all. What else doesn't it have? It doesn't have adaptive cruise control, which is a bit of a surprise to me, and that's a big deal to me, in all honesty. I would not want to be without my adaptive cruise control. I use it all the time. I use it both around town and on long drives on the motorway. It takes a lot of the stress out of motorway driving, and it makes sure you don't inadvertently speed, because it is easy to do in this car around town. So just by setting it at 30, you won't be picking up any speeding tickets, which is quite useful and quite a big deal in this car, because it's very easy adaptive speed in this car. So yeah, adaptive cruise, I really wouldn't want to live without it. It does have the adaptive speed limiter function, so that's in there still, so you can still set it so it won't go above a certain speed, you know, and you can just sit with your foot on the accelerator. But I like my adaptive cruise control, and really wouldn't want to give that up. What else? 360 camera. It doesn't come with the 360 camera, so all you get is one bog standard reversing camera, where with the higher spec models like mine, you get the full 360 camera, which gives you a top-down view with all the cameras stitched together to give you a complete view around the car. And it is nice and it is useful. Very good for putting it in tight spaces, getting out of tight spaces, etc. But also you get all those extra views on the camera page. So on the camera page you can get, for example, there's a split front view that kind of looks left and right from the front of the car. So if you're coming up to, say, one of those junctions where you've got hedges or walls that come right up to the junction and you can't see out, on cars with the 360 camera you can flick to that view, and the camera's on the front corner of the car, on the front of the car rather, give you a view around the corner effectively, and that is really useful. You've also got a top-down view from the cameras in the door mirrors that show you looking straight down past the edge of the car onto the road, and you can see the front wheels on screen as well at the same time, and that is something that I do find very, very useful, because you can see exactly where the curb is in relation to the wheels. So if you're reversing into parking, you know, if you're parallel parking or something, or if you're driving through a very tight gap, you know, car parking barriers, things like that, you can see exactly where the wheels are, and it's very helpful for avoiding curbing your car. So you lose all of that by not having the 360 camera, and I would miss that. That is a big feature for me and extremely useful. Self-parking, the car won't park itself. I wouldn't worry about that. I tend not to use it, and I've spoken to a few people about it that have got it on their cars, and most people tend not to use it, because it's just it's a bit of a gimmick, to be honest. It tends to take more manoeuvres than I would if I was doing it, and it, to be honest, it doesn't save you any time. I mean, for some people reverse parking is really difficult, and I could see it being a huge benefit to them, but if you're not one of those people, I would say you can live without the parking mode. To be honest, it's just something that you'll use to show off to people and say, look what my car can do, and that's about it. You do lose the ability, because it also, as well as parking itself, if you're in a tight parking space, it will actually get you out of the parking space as well, which is actually quite useful, I will say. I've used that a couple of times, where, you know, the thing where you park your car, you come back and somebody's parked right up against you. Well, you know, the car will get you out of that situation. So that is useful, but it's not essential. I could live, as I say, easily live without all the parking mode stuff. Park assist pack, I think they call it. Next one's a big one for me. No heads-up display. I know heads-up displays sound gimmicky to some people, but honestly, it's I love it. I love it. You've got everything you need to see at a glance right in front of you. You don't have to look down or look down to the sat-nav screen. So you get your next turn indication from the sat-nav. That's projected onto the windscreen. And you get your what else you get? Name of the caller if your phone's ringing. You get your current speed, the speed limit where you are, and you get a little picture of the driver assist. So if you're in adaptive cruise control and lane keep assist mode, you get a little depiction showing when it's detecting white lines, so it will keep you between them, and when it's detecting a car in front of you, so it will keep you, it will keep you behind that car. So the heads-up display has got a lot of data, but it's very cleverly designed, so it's not cluttered at all. It's very, very helpful. Everything's right there. You can almost drive to wherever you're going without even having to look down, to be honest with you. And I love my heads-up display, absolutely love it, and would not want to be without it. And we're getting to the end of the list now. You also don't have 4-zone climate control, you have 2-zone, so the front passenger gets their own climate control settings page, or settings control should I say, but the rear seat passengers have no climate controls at all, so the rear cabin is set to whatever the driver sets. Not a big deal. I very rarely have rear passengers in the car, to be honest with you, but when I do, for example when I'm driving my parents around, it is nice for them to be able to set a temperature that suits them, but honestly for me it's not a big deal, it's not a deal breaker, but it is a nice to have, it is a definite nice to have. And one of the things I like about it, which is probably going to sound stupid, but the panel in the back looks quite empty and bland without the controls, where the controls make it look just a bit nicer and a bit more luxurious and swish. I know that sounds shallow, but what can I say? There you go. That's just the guy I am. Yeah, so there's that, and the final thing, and I think this is just from the first edition, I don't think even the HSE has got this, but I'm not 100% sure, is this car has just not got as much leather everywhere. My car is just leather galore, and the particular area you notice it in is the top of the dashboard. Right from one side of the windscreen to the other on my car is wrapped in leather, where this is soft touch plastics. They're not bad soft touch plastics, they're quite nice ones, they don't look or feel cheap, but it's plastic as opposed to leather, and it has to be said, it does look really high-end and luxurious on my car. So yeah, that's pretty much all of it. That's all the differences I've managed to find. Sorry, just glancing down to double check my list that I haven't missed anything. That's all the differences I've managed to find, to be honest. As you've heard, there's a few big ones, a few unimportant ones, and a lot of ones that now that I've got used to having them, they're really nice to have. Could live without them, but I like having them, and I wouldn't want to live without them. So that's a little rundown of the basic Model S compared to my first edition. So what do you think? I mean, the price difference is quite big. I mean, my car cost me £80,000 after the grant. Now, I did put some extra options in there. I think it would have been round about, well, I spec'd those big wheels for a start. I think they were about £1,500 on their own. So all in, I think my car would have been around 75 or 76, maybe 77, if I hadn't added the few extra options that I did. There weren't loads, but there were a few. The big wheels, I added the garage door opener, that was about it. Oh, and some cosmetic stuff, the wheel caps, I bought different wheel caps and things like that, but really, yeah, it's probably would have been about 77 without it. So you're looking at, this car is 60,500 near enough. I think it's 64,995 after the grant. So you're looking at about a £60,500 difference to the first edition. The HSE is a little bit cheaper than the first edition was, so I think it's running at about 74, but I'm not 100% sure. but you're still looking at £13,500, £14,000 difference there. So what do you think? Leave me a comment down below. Anything, what would you do? Would you go for the HSE with pretty much everything on it? Or would you buy the basic model and then spec it up with a few items to get it to where you want it? I bought the first edition and I'm glad I did, you know, because I could. It was my treat to myself. I was coming back from 10 years working in the Middle East, and it was a little way of spoiling myself after all of that, or quite a big way of spoiling myself. So I wanted to get the best one I could. I love my toys, I love my gadgets, so I wanted the one that came with as many gadgets as were available. So that's what I did. That's why I opted for the first edition. Plus, I just like the cachet. I like the fact that it's the first year of the I-Pace. It's the first electric car Jag's made, and I've got the first edition. I'm planning to keep it for a long time. So yeah, that's why I went for it. If my budget had been tighter, I don't know what I would have done, to be honest, but I certainly would have spec'd a few things onto it. If I had to go for the basic model, I would certainly have put powered seats and a HUD. I think they would have been my minimums, and folding mirrors, definitely folding mirrors. Although I might not have known that when I was ordering it, because I didn't realise it was going to be as tight in the garage as it was. So I might not have spec'd the folding mirrors, and then I would have lived to regret it, because what do? It wouldn't have gone in the garage, and that's where my charger is. That would have been that would have been massive for me. Oh, I don't even want to think about that, because that could have happened. Oh, jeez. So anyway, yes. Let me know down below what you think. Any comments that you leave, I will try and reply to them. If you've enjoyed it, then don't forget to like and subscribe. If you do subscribe, click on the bell and you'll be notified every time I upload a new video, and you won't miss anything. Yeah, if you do want to subscribe, you can do that right now by clicking on my ugly little face over there. And don't forget to check out my other videos like this one up here. Till next time, this is Abu Dhabi Dude saying so long, take care, see you soon. Bye! Abu Dhabi Dude!